Alright, I'm gonna be honest with you. This is what you can expect from this video. This is gonna be a non-technical review. I'm not gonna talk about the storyline, the secrets, what worked, what didn't work. I'm gonna talk about my feelings after finishing this series after 10 years of watching it. So that's it. No cuts, no images, nothing. This is just me sharing this with you and hopefully have something to look back, maybe in a couple of years or more, to get a better understanding of who I was when I ended this watching this series. So, just a little bit of context. I am 21. I live in north of Italy in a small town, and I grew up in this context. When I started watching Stranger Things, I was 11. And I remember during that time, I used to play with my friends and to live most of my life in this even smaller town close to where I live. And there, we used to have this beautiful community. We used to play football, soccer, and we had our first like relationships, first crushes, and our first problems as human beings, right? There was the beginning of my independence, and I very vividly remember watching Stranger Things during that time. And in particular, I remember with the second season. Well, first of all, I had a huge crush on Millie Bobby Brown, and I think this is very funny because at the time I remember feeling this crush, and um, I had this plan or on how to. My dog is moving. Where do you want to go? But I used to have this plan on how to get to know her and met her and fall in love, have kids. But I think this is interesting to look at right now because I'm 21 right now. I'm a video editor. I'm a freelancer, and you know, life is very much different right now. And looking back now, after the end of this, like, to me, this episode is like look like finishing the last episode was such a huge moment of like awareness, because sorry, I started rambling around. I was talking about me in middle school. But yeah, the point I was trying to make is that I was first of all very different, and the way I used to look at the world was so much different. Um, the show for me at the time meant so much. Um, it made me feel so much empowered, and it made me feel so much interested in what life could be. At the time, I wasn't really choosing things. I was following a path, in a sense. I had friends. I don't know. I was going to middle school. I had this soccer thing. I had my first relationships, friends, and I wasn't really choosing too much. Like, I was just living and enjoying this, and things were going well because I'm lucky. I grew up in a safe, loving, caring environment, and that was my life. So there was this show, Stranger Things, with these kids, and I used to feel friend with a little bit, and they had this life, and I could resonate a lot with them. They were my age. They were doing similar stuff. They were dealing with upside downs and stuff, but they had these first crushes, they had their hobbies, they had their first issues. But that was very very much like having friends. Like, a little group of friends. And now that I finished this episode, I don't know, I really feel this such as like a big turning point in my life. Like, it may sound a little bit like jumping to the conclusion quite fast, but to me this show feel like the end of this show is a symbol of me entering like completely in my adult age and my like second chapter of my life. And you know, having access to this series, to these 5 seasons of this show is such an amazing gift. I realize, like, just thinking about it like a couple of minutes before starting to record this video, because these seasons, and I think I'm not the only one, you know, having this feeling. I think this is a huge benefit of not benefits, a huge cool thing about movies and TV series and books, that they can bring you back to a specific moment of your life so fast and so with so many details, you know. Now that I was after I finished watching the last episode, I went back to watch all the trailer of the previous seasons, and every single trailer for me like reminded me of such a different period of my life. Like watching the first trailer, I remember, you know, me on the bus turning back from school. Then second season, I remember me with like this first kind of relationship I had, and again, as I said, this crush for Millie Bobby Brown, and this feeling of independence and living in this small town, hanging out with my friends, being able to act like and behave like adults, right? So hanging out a little bit late, like until later, and then eating out with my friends, and they used to feel so surreal because we were kids, but you know, we were in this safe environment, and we were allowed to act a little bit older than what we was. So we were. So yeah. So then season 3, I remember, you know, with the beginning of my what was it, second year of high school. Then, you know, I very much connected with COVID, and then there was 4th season, and then this 5th season, and now I'm, you know, an adult. I'm a freelancer, and I've just, you know, finished my first year as a freelancer, and my life is much different. I'm such a different person. What I realized is that, of course, growing up, you start to see dreams in such a different way. As I said before with the Millie Bobby Brown example, I used to have this huge crush on her, and despite, you know, even at the time, I knew that that was not very statistically reasonable. Still, I wasn't worried about the all the steps that actually trying to pursue that would have required. Right now, on the other hand, I'm very much aware of what would be required for me. You know, let's change kind of dream, because she is also married and she has a kid, so let's change. But you know, that is the same for, you know, every dream. When you grow up, you start looking at things in a very much more practical manner, and that is something healthy, absolutely healthy. because that is required for you to start to actually trying to pursue some of those dreams. And that is the interesting little conclusion I wanna try to make. That, you know, when you grow up, you have on one hand the power to actually make your dreams come true and build your life, and that is such a cool thing, and of course at the same time such a huge responsibility. But on the other hand, you can't very look at things the way you used to look at them, right? And that's how life works. That's how growing up works. But aside from all the technical issues of this story, like for me, like looking back at those trailer was such like an amazing experience. I end up crying and then trying to get like find a way to put my thoughts into words, and I started recording a voice note to myself, and then I said maybe other people, you know, feel the same. And I think that is, you know, such a cool tool that we have, you know, YouTube, to share our thought with people and relay with them. And I feel so glad to have this tool with me, that I can always use, and in this case I'm talking about Stranger Things, not YouTube anymore, that I can watch at any time to turn back, you know, in different seasons of my life, and relive for a little bit how it was to have my first relationships during season 2, in the same way, you know, Mike used to have his first relationship, and having my first troubles and my first hobbies, and being so so irrational in a very good way, to our life. And things have changed. Life get boring and, you know, very fun at times, and very exciting, and very difficult as well, and a little bit more repetitive sometimes, and a little bit more predictable, and you know, there are so many, like life becomes such like a huge experience, a diverse experience, and but in a way you start to rationalize it more. And I don't know, I'm just very grateful to this whole series and to this whole world they created, because for me that will remain a door to my past, and a door to the way I used to think, and I used to dream about my life. Yes, so that's it.